Hey, Aisha.
Yeah.
And
Is
hey
John here?
to all the others.
Yes.
Okay, okay. Awesome. I'm
Nice.
going to mute myself.
Cool. Yes, also for the recording, we are now live. Welcome to the next session, session 5 of the Kudos and Showcode Blockchain Development Program. I am one of the hosts, Ollie, DevRel lead here, and hopefully you've seen my face before, but also hey to those in the chat at the moment as well. Good to see you here. But yeah, so as far as how things have been running so far, many of you have been on the journey with us for a little while. And if you are watching back the recording, if you haven't been on the journey with us for a little while, do feel free to go back through some of the recordings to see how to write your first smart contract. And there has also recently been an upload of a video as to how to build a front end for that smart contract as well. And that counts as the challenge 1 of the Showcode X Kudos blockchain development program. So exciting stuff from that side. As you finish with that challenge, do submit that on the Showcode on the Kudos Hub under the challenge 1 brief. And also some exciting news, also those who submit successfully and manage to build a smart contract and a front end that calls that smart contract via the Kudos testnet will also be receiving an NFT as a challenge 1 reward. There will be 3 NFTs for the 3 different challenges as part of the program. So that's some pretty great stuff on that side. And yeah, so some of you have seen those NFTs as pretty fire too. Pretty happy with how they came out from our designer over here at Kudos. And speaking of NFTs, that brings us to the Challenge 2 section. So with Challenge 2, you will be learning to mint your first NFT on Kudos and be able to build a front end for minting and for viewing those NFTs. Now, NFTs on Kudos are pretty interesting. So they're actually a little bit different to what you may have seen before with other chains. So while we do support standard NFTs from the Cosmos ecosystem in terms of what's called a CW721 contract, we also actually have NFTs that are built into the very core of the Kudos blockchain themselves, or itself as a native asset. So that means that you don't actually need to deploy a smart contract every time you want to mint an NFT collection. So those function calls of a smart contract are actually built into the very core as a module of the Kudos blockchain itself. So with that, I am also going to be handing over to Antrix, who will be joining us in just a moment. He's just finishing off another call, but also thanks to Rom for hosting us here, and thanks to Aisha, who's also joining. Just as a reminder for all of you, feel free to, at any stage during any of the challenges, but especially as you're finishing off challenge 1, to reach out in Discord for any support you might need when building that DApp front end and the smart contract for what you are doing in those sections there. I just need to mute my notifications because there are a good number of, speaking of Discord notifications coming through. I hope you can't hear them. But yeah, so with that, it's going to be very cool to have those NFTs available as well. Still haven't managed to mute myself here. So we are just waiting a moment or two for Antrix. So he has messaged to say he will be on very, very soon. So apologies for that minor delay. So some other things to just cover in the meanwhile. For those of you who are also new to Rust, so some of you who have started on that challenge one already would have started watching those videos from the previous sessions. And there's also been some great content from our dev rangers, Aisha and Antrich, on smart contract development there. But yeah, just as a recap, we also use the Rust programming language for writing smart contracts, and then front ends can be written in anything JavaScripty that you are familiar with. But yeah, we're going to be running through today using the Create Cosmos app as a tool to build the NFT front end. And so that will be, it's a great tool that makes the scaffolding a new project incredibly easy with Kudos and the broader Cosmos ecosystem as well. And so, yeah, on that Rust front as well, on the smart contract side, would definitely suggest those of you to get hold of this book, which is also available online. And the first 5 chapters of it are particularly useful when it comes to smart contract building. So that is the Rust programming language. We've got Ferris, the Rustation on the front as well. And yeah, it's some good fun there too. So I have just heard from Antrich that he is managing to join now. So yeah, again, thanks for bearing with us for a moment here, and we should see him soon. And we'll get going on that NFT front end with the Create Cosmos app. So while we're here, I will also share some links. So a lot of the useful links are available on the samples, the Kudos examples GitHub. There is a dev resources file there that contains some of the links there, including links to Create Cosmos app. Some of you may have seen Create Cosmos app already from the previous section, and so it's pretty useful in terms of getting going quickly with the front end. Yeah, definitely head to that link for both some example code as well as those dev resources too. The Create Cosmos app link itself is in the chat too. And that comes from the team over at Cosmology. They've been pretty awesome in the tech that they've been developing for the Cosmos ecosystem and for developers here. Hey, Antrich. Can you hear me?
Hi, yeah.
There we go. Good stuff. Yeah, thanks for managing to still stop by here. And yeah, we're pretty keen to see what you've got to show us on the NFT front end side.
Hi.
There
Hi.
you go. Hey, yeah, good to see you.
I had some technical glitches there. Hi. Yeah. So, I'll just share my screen once. Yeah. Turn screen share on entire screen. 1 second. Yeah. Cool. Oh my god. Screen share, allow. Yeah. Hi. So, I'll open up my terminal. So what we're going to do for this session, as you all know, we're going to be making the NFT front-end application. So we're going to be building an NFT interface that will interact with the Kudos blockchain and the native NFT module in the Kudos blockchain. So we're going to build that. The first thing, so we're going to be using the Create Cosmos app. So npx create Cosmos app. We're going to use it. You can just, when you type npx create Cosmos app, it'll automatically prompt you to install Create Cosmos app. We're just going to say Kudos NFT interface. You enter in your app name. We want to connect to just a single chain, and it's going to resolve the packages. It's going to install the packages. A little about it. So what we're going to build, I'll just show it to you once. So let me run the server. I just pushed the code. This is the code that we have right now. So what we're building is basically this. We will be building a simple looking interface like this, where you can connect your wallet. You can connect to any wallet, Kepler, Cosmos Station, Leap, Kepler Mobile, any of these wallets. And then it shows you're connected to the Kudos testnet. We're going to build it on the testnet right now. We can also see our address here. And then we can see that we have a bunch of NFTs already. I think the limit here, the image here hasn't loaded yet. Yes, it just loaded. Yeah. These are also some glimpses of the NFTs that you will be getting once you submit your project. So that's something exciting. Once you see your NFTs, you can also issue a new denomination, which is just creating one NFT. And once you create that NFT, you can also mint those NFTs and send it to any address you want. So we're going to be looking at all this, touching upon all this, and it'll be helpful when you want to integrate native NFTs into your front-end applications, in the Kudos blockchain. So this is done. So we'll just cd into Kudos NFT interface, and we can run the server by doing yarn dev, right? So it's going to run on localhost 3000. Yeah, I'll just copy this link.
Antrix, just quickly, I think your screen share is cutting off a little bit at the top and the bottom. I don't know if it's possible to.
Oh yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
I see that. I don't know. Oh my god, it was blocked again. I am unaware of this. Yeah, it's still cutting off, right?
Yeah. So maybe don't stress too much. Just keep your code to the middle of the screen.
Yeah, I'll do that. So I think you
Cool.
can see this now, right? So
Yeah.
the
It's
server
not too
started.
bad. Yeah. It's not
Yeah,
cutting off too much.
this is what we have right now. This is the default Create Cosmos app. So I'm just gonna open it up in the blockchain. So I'm gonna create a new window in my code editor. We're gonna have this here, and the first thing we're gonna do is, oh, that's a separate thing. Anyway, we're gonna open add folder to project, and we want it to be the kudos NFT interface, like so. Yeah. So this is the project directory. These are all the files we have. We have so let's first. So the first thing we want to do is, as you can see, it's connected to the Cosmos Hub blockchain. So you can connect your wallet, Kepler wallet, something like this. So it connects you. But right now it's connected on the Cosmos Hub network, right? Not on the Kudos network. Instead, it's connected on the Cosmos Hub network. So what we can do is we can change that so that it connects to the Kudos network, right? So the way we do that is, okay, it's taking a lot of memory. So the way we connect to a separate network like that is we have something called config, right? I'll just copy this. So inside config, which is right here, we have defaults. In defaults, we have to export a chain name. So like here, I'll just add kudos testnet here. Once you add your chain name, it will automatically connect to that chain. So what we do here is we have underscore app.tsx, where we get the chain name, and then we use that chain name and pass it to our wallet provider, which then creates which then uses that chain name in order to connect to the network. I think it's, yeah. So that's what we basically do. So now we have kudos testnet here. If
Seems we've lost Andrich for a moment. I'm sure he'll be back on in a second. Just resending him the joining link so he knows where to go. I have a sneaky suspicion he's had to turn it off and on again to clear out some RAM. Sorry for the technical difficulties here. If anyone has questions at any stage, feel free to also post those into the chat or the Q&A as well. Aisha's also tuned in here, and obviously myself to assist with anything you're struggling with on the fly. Obviously not struggling with too much right now, hopefully, as we're in a little bit of a lull here. I guess we might be editing this part out for the recording, but thanks for staying with us nonetheless. Trying to figure out what's going on with Antrix's system in the meanwhile.
Hey Ollie, any word on Andrich?
Yeah, trying trying to phone him now as well. But yeah, I'm seeing that he hasn't been able to connect on any of his devices, so I'm worried his internet may have cut out.
Yeah, that probably makes sense. I guess
Yeah.
like in the meantime, we can just talk about what Antrix was going to go through, like an overview. And I remember him before he was just cutting off quite cool things. Like he mentioned that on the NFT side of things for Kudos, it's quite different in the fact that you might not have to use smart contracts for each and every NFT. I was wondering how does that work in terms of the minting process?
Yeah, so it's an interesting question. So as part of the Cosmos SDK, it's possible to, within your blockchain, build custom modules for the blockchain itself. And those modules, you are able to build them in such a way that they can handle sort of standard functions that you want to be correct for your specific application. And that's the idea of these application specific chains. And so, yeah, we've also just seen Antrix join as well. So I'll finish up here and we can hand back. But yeah, hey, Antrix.
What happened? Was I disconnected? Sorry, I was just blabbering on.
Oh no! so you were actually connected. Yeah. So we lost you pretty early on, just after you'd sort of opened and we're talking about the defaults file in the config. So very early on.
Oh my God, I'm sorry.
No worries. But you may need to go back a little bit through.
Of course,
through what you were running through. So it may actually just be worthwhile to start again from where you start coding.
Of course.
And thanks to those who, thanks to those who've stuck by for and have persisted with this, but also those in the recording. I think we'll be able to snip out the middle bit here as well. But just that last little bit on the native NFTs, they are built into the core of the platform of the blockchain itself. So you're able to call the functions directly on the running code of the blockchain rather than the running code of a smart contract that is operating on the blockchain. So, but we're going to see those in action from Antrix now as well.
Yeah.
Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So I haven't really done much right now. I just changed the UI to look more like the initial one. So all I've done right now is done a few UI changes. This is actually the code. We've done a few UI changes where I changed the heading here, Kudos NFT interface. I changed the text here to built with love by Kudos. I just added a new heading, your NFTs here. And in the wallet section, I removed the grid item that was here. So we only see the Kudos testnet. Yeah, and I've also shifted this to the navigation bar. That's also done from here only. That's just some Chakra UI logic. This code right here, this flex right here corresponds to this area, and this right here just basically is this whole area where we have justification, but we have space between, which is our justify content, just some basic Chakra UI CSS logic. Anyway, I was talking about NFTs when I saw that I was disconnected. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to come here to my terminal. Yeah, so my terminal right here. Just if possible, I will open it upside here. Yeah, we'll just run it again. That's fine. Anyway, so I'll just so if you have the Kudos Node CLI installed, you'll be able to use that CLI in order to interact with the NFTs module. Now, as said before, it is a native module, which means that it's part of the blockchain itself, right? So if you use something like the Kudos Node CLI, which is which is the client. It's the Kudos Node CLI is a client to interact with the blockchain node. So if you do something, so the simplest way we can interact with the NFT blockchain at the NFT module is it has two things. It has a query and it has transactions. So we can query stuff. For example, if we do this, if I run Kudos Node query NFT right here, what I can do is I can query some stuff here. I can query approvals, collection, genome, all of these things. You can also see what all you query actually. So for example, I'll just give you an example. We can query token, right? Inside token, it says you have a denom ID, you require a token ID. Now the denomination ID is something like, I made one earlier, so I'm saying it's CBDP, I call it. The token ID is 1. And the flags are the node, which is the Tendermint RPC interface, and you require the chain ID. Now you can find both of these things are basically fairly standard. So I'll just come here. So I'll just show you what those are. They're always standard for the testnet. It's this basically. I'll paste this in here as well. So in chat, right? So you can just copy this whenever you want. This is always going to be standard. Now if we query that, you'll see that we in fact get a response. This is a single NFT token that we've just queried. It has a data which is empty at the moment. It has an ID which is 1, a name which is project 1 submission, an owner, and a URI. Now this is also the sort of NFT that you will be getting once you submit your project. So stay tuned for that, and do be sure to submit your project to be eligible for this NFT airdrop that we'll be doing on the mainnet. Right now, this is just on the testnet. So this is what you will be getting, something like this. This file is stored on IPFS, as you can see. It's on IPFS. So we also have an owner, everything. So that's how querying works. So that's how you can query from the CLI. But what we're going to look at in this application especially is how to query from the front end. So without further ado, I'll start working on that. Now, there's one other thing that you should be aware of, which is the chain registry. Yeah, so the chain registry is where you can find data about all the chains, and this is from where the module that we're using, the dependency that we're using, which is I think it's 1 second, which is this chain registry module. So this chain registry module just picks up the chain's data from here only. Now the data that we're using comes from the testnets directory where we have Kudos testnet. So that's what we have. So this name right here, so the name in our config file, Kudos testnet, this corresponds to this name, right? So if you ever want to use a specific blockchain but don't know the testnet or the name of that chain, just go ahead to chain registry and just look up the name. I'll also paste the link in here. Yeah. Anyway, so one thing you can see is that this image is kudos.png. This is the same image that is over here. So chain registry, so all the data comes from here, just so you know. Now you also get so you can also see that you have a bunch of APIs here. So every Cosmos blockchain has an RPC API, a REST API, and a gRPC API. Now the API that we're going to use in our application, at least for querying NFTs, is going to be the REST API. So I'm just going to copy this link because this is the REST API that we require, which is the HTTPS version instead of the HTTP one. And of course, the RPC API that we are currently operating on is this one. So this node comes from this, right? So these both are the same node, but this is the HTTPS version and this is the HTTP. So yeah, here this REST API corresponds to this RPC node, right? That's why if you're working with either of these, don't use all of these REST APIs, just use one of these. Now HTTP may not work in case of some people because of issues with SSL certificates, but yeah, in that case just switch to this, and this is what we'll be using right now. So I'll just showing you. So this is the API. Yeah, another thing that I'm going to show you is this right here. Wait, is this. So if we come back here to GitHub, if we go to kudos, if we come back to the kudos node, so inside this X directory we have the NFT directory. So that right here is this right here is the native NFT directory. This is the module, and here you'll see a bunch of all the information you ever need to know about it. So this will be a guide if you want to work with native NFTs. So as you can see, it shows us all the queries and transactions we can do. Along with that, it also shows us the different REST API endpoints. So in our case, what we want to do is, in order to, for example, if you want to query a denom by denom ID, we can simply do this /NFT/ denom / and the denom ID, which is in a CBDP. But NFT/denom/. So what we're gonna do is, one second, let me see. We have so this is the one. /NFT/denom/CBDP. Yeah. So as you can see, we have the data here. We have the height at which this was created. This denom was issued. The result, which is all this is just JSON. The name, which is Kudos Showcode badge. Again, this is just a mock-up of the NFT that you may get. The creator symbol, all of that. So this is what we get. That's one thing. We can also try a bunch of these as well. We can do NFT/denoms/symbol /CBDP. I think we need to capitalize that. Yeah, and we get the same result. So you can try all of these in your own time. We're going to be working with a few of them. We're going to be working with this one. We're going to be working with I think we're going to work with the one where we have this one as well, right? So you'll see that. So we're going to go ahead and start by displaying a bunch of NFTs owned by the address we're currently logged in with. So what we're going to do is refer to this. This tells us that NFT/owners is where we can get the collection of NFTs owned by an address, which is what we want. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to open the terminal. I'm going to yarn add Axios, which is something which is a library for fetching data. So I'll come back here, and the first thing we want to do is create a user effect hook. I'll just add this import from React. And what we do here is, let me check. Yeah, so we're going to so I'll tell you, show this to you once. So what we do here is basically we have address, which comes from this. I'll show you why we're adding address here. If we have an address, then what we're going to do is we're going to use Axios dot, we're going to import Axios axios.post, and we basically want NFT slash owners, axios.post, NFT slash owners. Then we require, so now you can see that this is the struct that is the data we need to pass through. So we need to give it NFTs owned by an address, a denom ID, owner address, and pagination. Now, as far as I know here, what we're doing is we are going through a specific denom ID. We're not going through all denominations, right? So that's what I've done here, and that's fine. So just to make it simpler, right now we're just going through a hard-coded denomination ID. That's not something you'd want to do in a more flexible and modular NFT interface. In a more flexible interface, you might, query all the denominations, and based on that, you would then have to query for each denomination address. You'd have to query the owner, something like that, which would be that would take a lot of time, but that's one way you could do. Anyway, apart from that, that's a separate story. So we simply post like that. Okay, yeah, let me just check the type. Yeah, so const res, so that's the result. Then we just do res.then. Res.then, we have some data, and we simply want to console.log that data. So I'll just say that like so. Yeah, so if I come back here, so I'll just reload. Oh my god, I don't know what this. Anyway, so as you can see, we have all the data now. We have a data, we have result, we have the owner, we have the ID collections, we have all that we have here. So if we go through this returned JSON returned object, we have a data where we have a result, where we have an owner. So data.result.owner. So if we do something like that, we then get an address, which is the address we pass through, an ID collections, which is the returned denomination, along with the token IDs that we have. So this doesn't return the NFT itself, it returns the token IDs. With that, we have to then go ahead and iterate through each token ID and then find out and query the single NFT. So what we're going to do is we're going to have some state here. So we're going to use the use state method, which is the default state management for React. NFTs set NFTs. I'll just small s. Yeah. So first thing we're going to do is we will say dot ID collections dot ID underscore collection 0 dot token IDs. Token underscore IDs like so. So this is our, I can say, so this is what we'll iterate through. So we'll just create a simple for loop. So look at this, let I is equal to 0, I is less than token IDs dot length I plus 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 plus. And so what we're doing is we just have that, and now we will do something like axios.get. I'll just copy this link right here, so we get this. Yeah, basically just this. Yeah, so if I come back to where we were here. So we can query a single NFT by just doing NFT/NFT/genome ID/token ID. And so what we've done here is we know the genome ID we're querying, which is CBDP, and we know the token ID, which is this token ID that we get from here. So this is the token IDs. We just add I to it, and that's how we get the specific token ID. Then we get something like underscore data. We can just console.log underscore data dot data. Yeah. So let me reload. Yeah. So we get this is these are the two NFTs that we have. Project 1 submission, project 2 submission, ID is 2, ID is 1. They both have different images. Yeah. So what we can do is we have a .result.nft right there. So .result.nft. So what we can do is we can do something like set NFTs, where we have previous, and I'll just explain what I did here, what I'm doing here. But basically, take the NFT like that. We just add it like that. Yeah, we may have to do it like this. I'm just setting the type to any right now. We're not caring about the type. Yeah. So now, after all of this fetching data, we should have some NFTs there. If I reload again, you may not be required to reload the page itself, but let's see. Wait. Oh, the terminal closed. Yeah, okay. So I'll just open up the editor again. Yeah. So if I just take a look at this once, we set the NFTs to that. Yeah. So what we do is we change this to something like this. So we have a .url. I think yeah, it's a .uri. I'll copy this object. So we have that object right there. So this just becomes data underscore data dot data underscore data dot data. Yeah. If you console logging NFTs right here, what we can do is we can come here, right? This is where we want to be, and what we can do is we can say something like nfts.map, a single NFT, where we just at least for now we render in some text with nft.name, and we have that. So as you can see, we have the different NFTs here, except they're just being rendered again and again too many times. Yeah, so what's happening here is what happened earlier. At least I'll show you what happened here. So if I save that, I don't know, wait, let's change this to something like kudos. Let's change something there. So as you can see, we initially had 2, but now we have 4. So what's happening here? So what happens is during rendering, as soon as we do some change here, this use effect is run again. And when this use effect is run again, that's because the component is rendered once more. So whenever we do some change inside the component is re-rendered. And in that case, what we have is the use effect runs again, And when the user effect runs again, it adds those it adds extra NFTs inside the NFTs array state, which leads to more additions here in the UI. The way you can fix this is we can check for the length of NFTs to be 0. So only and only render this if the NFTs are 0. Only then render all of this logic and only then query all the NFTs. So what this does is that it ensures that if you make some change, it won't re-render all the NFTs again. So as you can see, we have 2 right now. I'll just change this to Kudos NFT interface, save it. Even after changing it, it still remains 2. So that's what we have there. Pretty good. Next thing, I'll just copy the grid that we have here, which is basically just this. We've already seen the logic, which is mapping over each NFT. So I'll just show you what's happening here. So all we're doing is we have, I think this image comes from, all we're doing is we have a grid here, which has a margin bottom of 10. We are just setting it so that we have 3 columns, and we then just iterate over each NFT and we have a grid item that looks like this. All this does is that it renders the images for us. Yeah, and that's all it does. And that's all we've done right now. So this is basically what we want, and this is exactly how it looks here. So it's pretty good. We've made some good progress here. So just to recap, all we've done is we have gone through, we've queried the NFTs of an owner by sending a post request, and then we've just iterated through each token ID owned by that owner, and we've just fetched a single NFT. And based on all that, we've just rendered all the NFTs here. It's not too complicated, especially if you understand React.js and all. So that's what we have. You could also just go ahead and here just render in some text that also has nft.name, but I'll leave that up to you. So that's up to the viewers, the audience, how you want to display the name and other fields like the data fields and the creator, how you want to add those to your interface. You know how to do it. You know what this returns. Right? So work accordingly. Anyway, so now we're done with this part. Next, we want to do is we want to be able to issue denomination and we want to be able to mint NFTs. The way we're going to do that is by going ahead and so I'll require a few libraries now. We're going to require Formic, which is a library to deal with forms. Then I think we'll also require, let me see, there's a library, we also require nft.storage, which is something we'll use for dealing with IPFS. And we also require Kudos.js. That's all that we require, I believe, right now. So I'm going to go ahead and copy some boilerplate code that we have here, just so that we can deal with forms and all. So I'll just copy the entire component, at least for now. So I'm going to come back here. We're going to create a new file, create-nft.tsx. Don't need to worry about what I've just pasted. It's boilerplate code that you can get from the Chakra UI documentation. I'll just remove all of it basically. So I'll just come back here and basically remove that, and yeah, okay, good. So I think there's some issue with my space. Can you guys hear me? Yeah. I think there's some issue with my device that it's not able to install. What I'll just do is I'll come back here. That's fine. That's fine. Let's just not this. Okay. So I'm facing an issue here. So I don't have any space left on my device for some reason. So what I'll do is I'll, at least for now, go through this code that I've already have here, right? Go through this right now. Yeah, I can't. Never mind. So I'll just go through the code once. So what we have is a pretty standard code for working with a model in Jacra UI. I'm not going to go over that because that's not relevant to what we're doing right now. So we're using Formic here, right? Formic. So ignore over this part right now. Ignore that. Ignore this part right here. This on submit function. Ignore it right now. We have fields here. We have two fields, a name field and a symbol field. So we go back to this right now. So this is what we're doing, working with. We're issuing a denomination. A denomination is basically like a dollar or a pound. So that's a denomination. That's a currency which has different denominations. So you have a dollar, you have pennies, you have cents. Those are different denominations. So similarly, in NFTs, you have different NFT, right? So you can have something like apes NFTs. Then you have, Bored Ape NFTs. You have FIFA World Cup NFTs, so stuff like that. So, and then you can mint an individual instance of an NFT, right? So it's just similar to that. So we have two fields here. We have a name and a symbol. You can see what all you require. So this is the message. We require a name and a symbol. The ID schema center is all just automatic. So once we have all that ready, we go ahead and work with the on submit function. The first thing we do is most of this is just pretty standard that you will have to add in every application where you're doing something with NFTs, where you're working with any of these transactions. So if you want to edit an entity norm or revoke a previously granted permission, if you want to do any of these, you will have to add most of this boilerplate code. So the first thing we do is we get the signer. So he's the wallet manager, which we get from here. From that, we get the offline signer. Once we get this offline signer, which is, as far as I understand it, it's just a signer. We get that. We then create a client, which is a signing Stargate client. It's just that this client, it's a Stargate client that has permission to sign transactions. So we use the .connect with signer method, where we pass in the RPC endpoint and the signer. Now the wallet manager automatically gets the RPC endpoint. Again, it gets the RPC endpoint from the chain registry. You don't need to worry about that. And then once we have a client ready which can sign transactions, we go ahead and create a fee. This is not relevant actually. We don't need this right now. So just ignore this part. So I'll just remove this. I'll remove this code right there. Yeah, so it's just this much code. It's actually just 3 lines. We then just go ahead, and once we have a client, we just run the NFT issue denom function. Now this is a magical function because it does all the work for you. All you have to do is given the appropriate fields that's required, and it automatically does everything for you. So what I'll do is I'll go to the Kudos.js repository where we will see this NFT issue denom function. So it's on line 110 right here. So what it does is it takes in a sender, it takes an ID, name, schema, symbol. Um, these are the required fields. The sender is this is just the address that you get from the wallet manager. Um, then the ID of the NFT is a string. What we've done is we've just taken the symbol and we've just converted it to lowercase, and we are saving that as the ID. So the ID must always be unique. So if you're doing something like if you save the ID as, I don't know, something like NFT1, if that's your symbol, then your ID, corresponding ID, would be NFT1. So you will not be able to use another, you will not be able to create another denomination with this ID. So just be mindful of that. That's how we're doing it right now. Once we're done with that, we require a name of the denomination, which is just values of name. Then the schema. We don't have a schema yet. You can just ignore schema right now. The symbol, which is how it looks like. What's the symbol of it? The rest fields are traits, minter, and description. So this is traits, this is minter, this is description, and this is data. Now we've left all of these empty because you don't require data and all right now. Data is generally just metadata. So if you're creating some sort of like a game character NFT, in that case you might need some metadata for storing the health points or something of an NFT. So data might be useful in that case. We're not dealing with data right now. And then we have a description. You can just set the description anything like created by NFT minting interface. So you can set the data, so you can set the description to anything you want. And then we have the gas. Now this is pretty standard gas pricing. So you can just copy this gas pricing right here. It's fine. It's standard. You don't need to worry about this. We just um, it's just, I think these are 16 or 17 zeros, and that's how many A kudos you need in order to um, as gas. And this just issues the NFT denomination, and it broadcasts the transaction, does everything for you. You don't need to worry about anything. So these are the 3 lines that are the crux of the logic for creating an NFT denomination. Then we just toast it, and that's all we do. Now I had a working demo, but apparently it doesn't work anymore because I have no space left on my device. I'm sorry for the technical glitch there. But all this code is on GitHub. You can run it yourself. Apart from that, so that's creating an NFT denomination. Now to complete the NFT interface, we also need to be able to mint an NFT itself. How are we running on time right now? I think it's fine.
Yeah, don't stress too much. We might need to run over a little bit. So
sure.
thanks for
I'll
those
just go
staying
quickly.
live, and then we'll cut
So
out some little bit for the recording.
Yeah. So what we're doing here is, again, this is basically the same thing. We have another model. We're using Formic. We have some fields here. You don't need to worry about most of it. All this you can find on Chakrayo's website. You should know this. All we do here is we have the same on submit here. The difference here is that in this case we are taking in a file which is an image. We're assuming it's an image. We take that image and we then upload it on IPFS using nft.storage. So this is something that requires a bit of intervention on my side. So nft.storage. So NFT.storage is a service provided by Filecoin and IPFS for storing sorry for storing NFTs. So we can get started. So I've already logged into my NFT storage account. You just log in. So all you need to do is go ahead to API keys. I already have my key. After this recording, I'll be deleting it, so it's fine. Keep it secure though. You give it some name. So you just come here, give it some name. You just create it, and there you go. You have your key here. Copy it, and do whatever you want. Now, the way I've done it is I've simply pasted it here. You shouldn't do this. You should have some sort of environment variable figured or set up. It's fine right now for this demo. Now again, you need to have the nft.storage module dependency installed. So do just hit yarn add nft.storage. The first thing we do is we instantiate a client using the NFT storage class. Once we get the client here, all we have to do is run one function, which is store blob, where we pass in the file itself, and it stores everything for us and returns a CID, which is content ID, right? So if I go back to come here to the docs, you'll see using the JavaScript API. What we do is we do this. We create a new NFT storage client and we store it. Now, what we want to do is we want to store some data. So I'll just come here, reference API. Yeah. So the reference API, you can see store blob is right here. It takes in a blob, a service and a blob. So the blob itself is a file. It's a file type. I'll come to what that is. It returns a promise with a CID string, which is just a CID, which is the content ID and string representation. So we just await it. We take that created content ID, and in order to access, so by default in IPFS, in order to access that content, right, you need to be able to take that ID and use some sort of an IPFS gateway like ipfs.io or infura.ipfs.io or any other gateway, and then access that data. So the gateway we're using is ipfs.io. So all you have to do is just prefix this and then add your CID here, and you will then be able to access your NFT from the browser, right? So it's as simple as that. So just 2 lines, you have uploaded it to IPFS. Now I'll just come on to talking about where you get this values.uri. So as you know, we have, so if you understand Formic, you'll know that it comes from this field where we have the name as URI. Here we have an input, which is of type of file. So it's a file picker. And all we're doing here is we're just, whenever we add a new file or something, we simply, oh my god, whenever we add a new file, we simply set the field value. Yeah, sorry, I'm facing some glitches here. So we just set the field value to URI to this, to event.currentTarget.files. So files is a list of, so the type of files is file list, which is an array of files, and we just get the first one from that, which is the file we want. And so once we do that, we just, so that right there is a file, and that file class inherits from the blob class. That's why we can store it as a blob. So once we're done with that, we have the same 3 lines as we had before. We create an offline signer. We connect with the signer in order to get the client, and then we have a client.nft bin token. Now this is a separate function. What I'll do is I'll just copy that. I'll come here and I'll see. So again, all of these functions that we've been looking at, They're all part of the same signing Stargate client. So if you ever want to do any sort of transaction with NFT and you don't know what function to use, just go through the code right here. It's fine. It's pretty good. It's pretty readable. NFT mint multiple tokens, the stuff that you need for this, NFT burn token, what all you need for this. It's quite easy to read, especially once you get used to it. So NFT mint token has a sender, denom ID, name, URI, data, and recipient. It's pretty straightforward. All we're doing is we add in the address, the denom ID, which again, it comes from here, and then we have the name, which comes from the fields that we have, and finally the URL of the IPFS gateway. And after that, we also have a data. We just sent that to an empty string, the recipient, and finally the gas. That's all we need, and we just mint the token. And if the code of the result is 0, that means you've successfully minted it. We just give a toast, and that's all. And that's how we were able to also mint an NFT. It's not rocket science, and that's all you have to do in order to mint an NFT and work with NFTs with native NFTs with Kudos. Can you see my camera?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, for your project and for the next time, as an exercise to you all, you can go ahead and work with actually implementing a separate functionality like editing an existing NFT, right? Try and do that based on what I've told you. Go through the GitHub. If you want to find a function, try to do it yourself. If you find any errors, we're there for you during office hours sessions to help you all out in your projects and help you all resolve your issues. Yeah, over to Ollie.
Nice one, Antrix. Yeah, thanks for that. And yeah, to the participants, sorry for a few of those technical difficulties that came in. Seems that Antrix is also struggling with some RAM in Firefox there, which may have actually also caused the storage issue if it had gone into swap space, by the way, Antrix. So
yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I think your swap may have been overloaded. I think our streaming platform may have been taking some resources there. So, but yeah, it's been pretty cool to see that NFT minting as you would have it now. Also, you'll see in the chat there is a link to Andrix's code on his GitHub that you saw him working from as well. So feel free to have a look around that to figure out how to do these things for yourself as well. And that is the important part of challenge 2, is to do what you've seen Antrix do here. As Antrix said, try and do it for yourself and get those NFTs minted on the Kudos testnet there. Also, as Antrix says, feel free to reach out to us in Discord. And also, yeah, we will be having office hour sessions to also help you along there. And yeah, thank you so much all for tuning in. Thanks for sticking with us even a little bit after time here. And for those of you watching the recording, hopefully you've enjoyed this as well. But we will catch you Thursday. Is it Thursday next week? I believe so, for the second session on the NFT side, where we'll actually just go through the last of it, and we'll probably use that as a working session as well. Thanks all for stopping by, and we will catch you in that next one. Reach out in Discord if you need anything else. Thanks to Antrix and Aisha as well, and to Rom, our host today. See you all in that one. Thanks all.